Hello and welcome to Future Proof, the business television programme looking at how we can have a greater sense of security and knowing what to do as we enter, and we're actually in the middle of a state of uncertainty, and I think there's more uncertainty now than there ever has been. Uncertainty is healthy in many ways. Too much of it though can really lead to anxiety and mental health problems, sleeplessness, and all those things that go with not feeling as well as we might feel. So this programme is already airing. We're already seeing interviews, people coming in talking about emotional intelligence and talking about artificial intelligence and what that means for the future. And what I want to do is thread through some of these interviews with some programs just of study, if you like, and looking at certainly elements of emotional intelligence that can really give us a sense of empowerment. So emotional intelligence is, in one short sentence, it gives us the ability to respond rather than to react. And when we respond, we sit in a choice box, and it really empowers us to make some better decisions than we would otherwise make. So my name is Sarah Hopwood, and today I'd like to take us all through something called Locus of Control. Julian Rotter was an American psychologist. In 1954, he published a paper called Locus of Control. In his own words, he said it was like lighting a cigarette and yet seeing a bushfire. He couldn't believe the response that he got. His motive for writing the paper was to look at motivation in the workplace, and I talk about this on a larger stage and also in smaller groups, and whenever I start to talk about it I will always acknowledge what the critics said at the time of the publication, and many said this is too extreme. This is too extreme. And when I talk about it, I say to people, I think we will understand why those critics said that. It's very, very black and white. It doesn't sit much in the grey area. And that's, I think, for you and I to think, where do we sit in this? But as business owners, maybe think, where are my people? You know, all the people that I've employed in my business, where do they sit in this? And for an employee to maybe for them to think, where am I in this? And indeed for students, if they can embrace and understand and if you like, do their own work in this paper called Locus of Control and understanding more of it and asking where they sit in it, I believe it will really, really empower them to be light on their feet as they move into the workplace. So Julian Rotter's critics said it is too extreme. When I talk about it, I say, yes, I think we can all understand that. But the reason why I talk about this so much is because I think you'll also say the guy had a point. So his motivation for writing the paper was to assess motivation in the workplace, and he talks about how as human beings we're wired to move towards reward and run away, if you like, or turn away or avoid punishment, pain, and I think if you watch the animal kingdom we can see those habits, and if we really maybe as a fly on the wall look at our own habits and behaviours, then we can see that's exactly what we're doing most, if not all the time, as we are living our lives, whether that's in the workplace, whether that's at home, out with our friends, or even when we are on our own. As human beings, one of the or two of the fundamental needs that we all have is that we need to know that we are loved and that we need to know that we are good enough. And as children we are only born with two fears, and they are the fear of falling and the fear of loud noises. So any other fears that you and I have been learned. And when we realise that, then sometimes it can be quite daunting, and other times you think, okay, well if I've learnt it, then is there any room where I could maybe unlearn some of it? And I've had those same questions myself, and it is through learning about locus of control, knowing what it means, that really helped me look at some of my fears, look at some of my behaviours, and for me to, number one, take more responsibility for who I am, what I do, why I say and do what I say and do, but also this great sense of hope real hope to say, okay, but if I operate effectively with this knowledge, I can really turn my life around. And if you think of railway lines, and they have to be accurate all the way on that railway track, if you like, from Brighton to London. And if there was a slight discrepancy at Brighton station going to London, in other words, like a centimetre out, where the tracks were not totally parallel, then once you get to London, that gap on those railway lines would be absolutely enormous. And the hope that should fill you and I with is that with the smallest of change, a centimetre of a shift in our thinking, or even a millimetre, can really bring out some very, very good results as we move forward with new thinking patterns and behaviours. So talking about locus control will take us through this whole programme. To begin with, I'm going to talk about exactly what it means, and then in the second half we'll probably look at the implications within the workplace, as an employer, as an employee, and indeed students in school preparing for the workplace. So locus control, place of control, and this is what Julian Rotter said. He said there are two main ways of thinking. There is an internal locus control, an internal way of thinking, and an external way of thinking. So let's take the workplace as an example, and let's maybe use an example of perhaps a refurbishment. An office is going to be moved around, and a secretary's desk is going to be changing from one place to another. That person has really loved where their desk has been, and they are really worried and daunted and fearful about the desk moving. They won't have the same view from the window, or the quietness, or whatever it is that makes this desk so special. And so the move is very, very fearful. So let's say there are two secretaries. One secretary demonstrates internal locus control, the other secretary demonstrates external locus control. So the external person, and we've all seen them in the workplace, these are people who believe that they have no power over whatever comes their way. So they are where they are today because of what has happened to them, because of the weather, the banks, the boss, whatever it is that has tripped and fallen them. So if you think of this secretary with external locus control, she will, or he will say, I don't want to move, I don't like it, I'm being made to move, and I'm going to be unhappy with the change. The move takes place, they don't cope very well, and so they sit there and they will say, my work has gone off the boil, I'm not very happy. Perhaps in an appraisal they'll say, yes, you're right, I haven't been myself, I've been unhappy for the last 6 months, it has been because of the move. So these external locus controls people will say, I'm where I am today because of what has happened to me. They will always blame somebody else. They sit in the circle of concern, and they are problem focused. And these people in the workplace should be few and far between, because as a business owner there's nothing worse than running around firefighting because people struggle to take responsibility, struggle to embrace change, and so therefore they become very disruptive in the workplace. Quite good if you want somebody in the back room just churning away, where they are just saying, please just tell me what you want me to do and I will do it. And they are literally just, if you like, on a hamster wheel, and they're doers. So I'm not saying they're completely bad in the workplace, but the last thing you want is your business filled with people who are external locus control. They believe they have no control over their thoughts, their feelings, and their emotions and their behaviours. So therefore everything is everybody else's fault and not theirs, and they can really pull a business down. So stay with me, and in the second half I'll talk about internal locus of control. EQ, emotional quotient, is better known as emotional intelligence. It is a tangible tool that can sit alongside your services or your product, and it can be taught. Leaders with high EQ have less stress, they're more effective, and they earn more money. There's a great saying, just because we have pains, it does not give us permission to be a pain. I believe that teaching emotional intelligence has a direct impact on your sense of success and your net profits. EQ will empower you and your workforce to drive the change that you want. Change brings transition. EQ can help unpack what's holding you back and speed up that period of transition.